It's on the money? Email us at onthemoney@cnbc.com.
So says our next guest. From dumb. That, according to researchers at the University of Western Ontario. And on the money tonight, Professor Phil Rushton, a psychologist at the university. Phil, what is the basis of the study?
We analyzed the responses of 100,000 men and women aged 17 to 18 who had filled out the Scholastic Aptitude Test. The Scholastic Aptitude Test has 145 items, which normally are divided into a verbal component and a mathematical part. And what we did was to essentially fit a general factor, what we call the G factor, that underlies both the verbal and the mathematical and almost all kinds of intelligence that we know of. And we examined the degree to which the males and the females differed on this underlying G factor. And what we found was that males scored 3.6 IQ points higher than females.
And what of those that argue that that's for any litany of cultural factors, or for that matter, a bias itself in the test? There's also been talk about why minorities score lower on SATs, and nobody has concluded that they are less intelligent.
Well, we're getting into a lot of different topics here, but our particular study, our particular data cannot address the question of genetics versus environment, but we can definitely look at the sampling bias. It's not sampled incorrectly because we looked at 7 different ethnic groups. We looked at 11 different levels of parents, mother's education, father's education, mother's income, father's income, and different levels of ability on the test. And it really didn't matter how we sliced it, all the different social class group differences. The male difference over the females was completely and absolutely consistent. So whatever the results are due to, it is not due to sampling bias.
But just because it's not due to sampling bias, does it necessarily mean that it's due to a different intellectual competency? In other words, it could be a test take. I mean, there's a million variables. I'm just curious how you back them all out to get to intelligence.
I don't think it's the usual sample of suspects in this particular case, because if it was, you would see that there would be distortions in the G factor throughout the distribution or somewhere in the distribution. But it is so consistent, and it is the general factor, not, let's say, the verbal ability factor or the mathematical ability. So the more a particular question loads on this general factor, then the more pronounced are the male-female differences on that dimension.
Are you a married man?
I'm divorced.
Did this come up?
I beg your pardon?
Did this come up?
Well, I suspect my wife might have been more intelligent than me, which, for all I know, is why I'm no longer married to her, but she's certainly my better half.
So you truly believe through whatever the empirical nature of your academic research, that there's integrity in your conclusion?
In this particular sample, yes. And of course, it's not an open and shut case. It's only one study. It's a very big study, and it does join a lot of other data that have recently been published by British psychologists in particular, one out of Denmark as well, which have pretty consistently found this 4 to 5 IQ point difference. And it's very surprising, because there's been a consensus for 100 years that men and women have the same general intelligence. And we're overturning that.
All right. Professor, a pleasure to have your time with us tonight. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Next up on